Welcome to Our View. I am the producer and host, Lorrie Hull Smithers, and my co-host, Jean Nickel, has been ill, but she is progressing well, and so we send all good thoughts to you, Jean. And I am just delighted today to have with me Rod Lathim. When I first met Rod, I thought, well, he's a mover and shaker in Santa Barbara. And we first met at San Marcos High when David Holmes had both of us do a career day together. And David had used my book on acting since he started teaching. And so I was very, very pleased that we could do that career day together. But then, when I looked up Rod, I was just blown away. He has so many honors that it would take us days to cover everything. One was leadership in the arts nationally. And that rang a bell with me because when I lived in Wisconsin, the governor appointed me to the State Governor's Council of the Arts that decided the NEA grants. Then I saw that Rod was given the Princess Grace National Award for his work in theater. And I read that because in 1973, Princess Grace had me come to Monaco to teach acting workshops.
Oh.
So we have so much in common, Rod. And then Stage Directions magazine gave you an award. And they did a wonderful review of my book, Strasberg's Method, and we could just go on and on. But I think we should get to what you're up to now, and if you want to tell us more about your past, hopefully we'll have time.
You know, the theater world is about this big.
Yes,
so
I
that's
know.
Why it's not hard to have overlaps with
we all
and
interact. And you had an award from Access Theater?
Well, Access Theater was the company
that's
I
right, but
founded.
that was a theater that award that you started, and Robert Zemeckis was on your board.
He was.
He and my son were in the same class at USC in film. I mean, we could go on and on. So Seniors Have Talent is what you're doing right now.
I am.
And before we get into that, I want to commend you on the wonderful work you did at the Marjorie Luke Theater.
Oh, thank you.
I know you were involved in the renovation, and you were there for a long time, and you did wonderful work, and you did, my husband was so impressed with the macaw.
Citizen Macaw.
that you did. And so let's start by talking about Seniors Have Talent.
Great.
Again, in October 2012, when my husband and I were doing Just Between Us, which is on the internet, by the way, if you want to look it up, we interviewed Gary Linker.
Oh.
And he's the president of the group that sponsors Seniors Have Talent.
Correct. Center for Successful Aging.
Right, Centers for Successful Aging.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. And you're the director of the show this year.
Correct. Actually, we started last year, and it was an idea that they came up with. They wanted to do a benefit, and one of the many things I love about this project, but one is that there are so many benefits in Santa Barbara. You can go to one every day of the week.
I know. And when we interviewed Gary in October 2012, he was just starting. Because I said, I teach private acting lessons if any of them want to get a monologue from me, you know. But it's music mostly this time.
Mostly music, yeah. It's music, instrumental music, vocal music, some dance. We do have two old radio sketches, an old Allenton Burns sketch,
I love
and the Bickersons from the 40s. But most of it is music. But they came to me a year and a half ago, and said, we'd like to do some kind of a talent show. And the original concept was to do a competitive, like the Teen Idol thing. And I said, I don't think that's the way to go. I think competition isn't what it's about. It's about celebrating talent.
Particularly when you're a senior.
When you're a senior.
Take it from one who knows.
Yeah, so we kind of adjusted it to just do more of a variety show. And it went so well last year that I think they're going to make it an annual event. So 2014 is our second year. And we've raised the bar. I think we have amazing talent this year. Most of the people in the show are either retired professionals or still working, as performers, either musicians or singers.
And is this a benefit for the Marjorie Luke Theater?
No, this is for the Center for Successful
Aging. Oh, it's for the Center, but it's at the Marjorie Luke Theater.
Yeah.
Okay,
April
I have that
5th,
straight.
2 o'clock.
And it's in April?
Yeah.
And do you want to tell who's in it?
Sure. We have, this is only a half-hour show, so I'll just jump through here, but we have a long list. It's a full 2-hour show, 2 acts. We have Silver Follies, which is an amazing group of senior women that dance like nobody's business.
Is that the picture?
This is actually a picture from our rehearsals now for this show. That's Carolyn Kimball and Bob Lesser and Gil Rosas. And that's a group of singers that we have in this year's show that are doing a medley of classic American songbook love songs from the 20s to the 40s.
I love those, yes.
So these are all amazing people, some of them I worked with and some I'm working with for the first time. Gil Rosas, people remember from the Olive Mill Bistro and the Somerset, if you've lived in Santa Barbara a long time. That's our poster for the show with all the details. Hopefully, if this airs before April 5th, you'll get a chance to join us. Last year we sold out, so we do encourage people to come and get their tickets early. And I'm gonna just read the number here really quick for tickets. It's 877-523-5509 if you're interested in tickets for seniors. That's the Senior Follies group, or Silver Follies group. From last year.
Okay.
And we have Peter Feldman, who is a really well-known bluegrass artist. He performs all over the country. He lives up in Santa Ynez.
How wonderful that he's on the show.
Yeah, he's going to do some Appalachian banjo ballads. And we have a group called Deja Vu, which is a quartet. They do a wonderful jazz. And a group called Ulysses Jazz, which plays every Saturday night at the James Joyce down on Lower State Street.
Oh, yes.
Amazing jazz group. We have Catherine Raymock is going to be our MC. Catherine's on the morning show with Gary on K-Lite. She was our MC last year. And we have some videos that we've produced on some really unique and extraordinary seniors, most of them in their 80s and 90s. That live and are very active in Santa Barbara.
And if people look at the website where we interviewed Gary Linker, that they can see his interview where he was all excited about starting this. And that website was when I did the show with my husband, and It's called SB-Just Between Us. And all of our shows are up there, like about 90 or to 100 shows.
Wow.
Where he was all excited about starting this, and isn't he fortunate to have you coming on board as the director?
Well, it's been a lot of fun.
Yes.
I really love working with, and it's really not about seniors. I'm almost technically a senior myself, but all the people that we're working with are passionate about their art form. They're active and vital people in our community, and the fact that they happen to be in their later years is very secondary.
Yes.
So, and I love the fact that this is a mission-driven benefit. Oftentimes you'll see benefits with high tickets at the Bacar or the Biltmore, and you go and it's a party and you drink and you eat, and you tend to forget about why you're there and what you're raising money for. This event is all about celebrating seniors and celebrating our lives, our talents. And I think it's so beautiful to have a mission-driven event as opposed to something that's unrelated to a nonprofit.
Well, isn't this also related to the California United Fund in some way?
Not that I'm aware of.
Or are you aware of it?
No.
Some fund that I read that you were involved in giving them funding.
Oh, Okay, I'm not aware of that connection.
Because Paul Didier, the head of that, has just been on our show, and he's playing right now in March on our show.
They might fund the Center for Successful Aging.
I think that was it.
That's probably the connection.
That's why I thought, oh gosh, another connection with Rod.
Lots of interconnectedness. Because United Way funds a lot of great work in Santa Barbara, and I think that's probably the connection.
So the United Fund, Center for Successful Aging, and Rod Lathim and Marjorie Luke, it all is connected.
Yeah, and actually, while we're talking about the Luke, or you mentioned the Luke is actually celebrating its 10th anniversary this year.
That's wonderful.
And we're doing a big event on April 26th. It's a concert by the Fab Four, which is the ultimate tribute band, the Beatles tribute band. I produced them at the Luke 10 years ago, right after we opened, and it was one of the most exciting events we have ever had at the Luke. So we're bringing them back to kind of bookend our 10 years. And we have a big party, a big catered party planned out in the courtyard.
I hope to attend.
Afterwards, yeah, it's going to be a really fun evening.
I remember when my daughter and I were studying in New York with Lee Strasberg, it was the second summer the Beatles came. And so we saw the Beatles. And then when Diane and I recently taught a workshop in London, sponsored by some of our English students, and my grandson was with us, we had to go by, the name of that lane, where the Beatles recorded.
Oh, Penny Lane?
Right.
Or is it Penny Lane? No. Abbey Road?
Abbey Road.
Abbey Road.
We had to drive by Abbey Road, and all these tourists were out snapping pictures, you know. They're so famous, and their songs are so wonderful.
Yeah, the Beatles are quite an iconic cultural part of our lives that I don't think will ever go away.
Have you thought of asking Paul McCartney to come up, or it sells out anyway?
Yeah, it will sell out.
So you don't need
him,
but
I have not.
He just might, you know.
You never know.
Right.
I do know that they used the Fab Four I have used them for a number of film and television projects that were Beatle related when they couldn't get, some of the Beatles, of course, are no longer with us. But they have used their performers and their music for tracks for a number of projects over the years. They really are, hands down, the best Beatles tribute group around. And when I saw them the first time, if you closed your eyes, you would have sworn you were hearing the Beatles,
original,
live.
The old Ed Sullivan show.
I felt like it was in the Ed Sullivan
Theater.
Yeah, so it's going to be a really, really, really fun event, and tickets are still available at the moment at the Libero box office, but it is at the Luke.
I know. I have tried to get into some things at the Luke, and they've been sold out. I think one was Glee. I think that's sold out.
Yes, the Glee event was sold that heavily, very fast. Yeah, that was a fun night.
Yes, that must have been, because some of the people on Glee had also started at the Luke.
Yeah, Dante De Loreto, who I grew up with and went to school with, and Dante and I acted together under the tutelage of Marjorie Luke on that stage. So Dante came up. He's the executive producer of Glee, and I called Dante and I said, "Okay, it's time to do something for the Luke. Can we make something happen?" And he made it happen. He brought up Jane Lynch and Corey Monteith, who sadly is gone now.
Oh yes, that was such a sad thing. Yes,
such a nice young man.
Oh,
so unassuming and no ego.
So many wonderful people have Philip Seymour Hoffman, and drugs are just deadly.
Yeah, it's very sad. I'm glad we got him to the Luke when he was still with us.
Oh, yes. Now, let's talk about Unfinished Business and show some pictures from that also, because you're the playwright.
I am.
And it was first produced, and there's the pictures at your cast.
Yes, this is my cast.
I swear I saw them on TV, but maybe not.
You may have seen pictures of them on TV, but we haven't aired the show anywhere. Unfinished Business is my first autobiographical play. I've been writing plays for 30 years, and it is as you probably know, it's a completely different experience and different road to write something based on your own life experiences.
Yes, and does it hurt you too much to talk about?
No.
It's about the death of your
mother,
right?
It's about my mom's passing. A lot of people think, is this going to be so depressing and so sad? And of course, it's an immensely sad experience to lose a parent. Nothing can take that part away. But my experience at my mom's passing was so extraordinary and so positive that, I mean, it's turned into a play. And
That's wonderful.
The more I talk to people, the more I have found out that people have really quite extraordinary experiences surrounding death that they don't talk about. And we produced Unfinished Business twice, once at Center Stage and then last spring at the Libero. And I still have people come up to me, strangers, who want to talk about their experiences because they say, you know, I've never talked to anybody about this before, but I think you get it. Can I share it with you? And I'm like, of course.
I think my son believes in reincarnation, that, you know, we'll all come back some way. And I'm going to be frozen with Alcor, and it's like Lazarus, you know, in the Bible, hoping to come back, and hopefully my family will feel that I really haven't gone, you know. So, I mean, we all have our own way of dealing with this.
And it's not, a lot of people, when they wanted to know what the show is about before it went up, and I explained to them that it's based on my journal that I kept the day Mom died, and the fact that I was witness to the people who came and arrived in her room, literally, to help her cross over. And they were relatives and friends and neighbors.
People who had gone before.
Yeah. And I fortunately had the wherewithal to get a pad of paper from my dad's desk, and I actually took notes that day. Those notes became the play. But I had conversations with these people, my grandparents.
How wonderful.
Great-grandparents, friends that had lived in the neighborhood that were close to my mom, and friends of mine that also knew my parents.
Who had passed on.
Who had passed. And it was extraordinary.
And you weren't dreaming and sleeping? You were
No, people
awake?
say, what were you smoking, Rod? And like, no, it was a very conscious, real experience. I have had experiences before in my life since I was 15 of seeing people in the spirit world. I wrote the book on the Big Yellow House, The Spirit of the Big Yellow House, based on my experiences there.
Now, is that available at the Granada Bookstore? Or?
It is. Granada Bookstore has it, and Chaucer's has it. My
book on acting and my 2 DVDs on acting are also available at the Granada Bookstore. It's a wonderful new, I would say, outlet for people in Santa Barbara. I mean, we're all on Amazon, but the Granada Bookstore is right there with our books.
I wish them only great success. It's so nice to have one more locally owned bookstore in town. And they've done a very nice job there.
Now, when is this play, and where is this play going to be produced again? Can you tell us again?
The goal is to bring it back to the Libero sometime in the fall of 2014. I'm actually writing more on it right now. I spent a couple months in England last fall and got some more inspiration while I was there to write kind of another layer on top of the play that exists now. It'll add about 5 more characters. It basically involves more of the people who showed up. It's a 6-character play at the moment, but there were so many people involved that day. But you can't write a play with, you know,
and so what were you doing in England in the fall?
I did some studying over there. I have kind of a second family in England, so I stay in England about
Now, Diane and I were
2.
there in September teaching this workshop in Soho. Some of our students brought us over to teach there, I think from September 23rd to 30th. That could have been the same time.
I was there at the same time.
You were there.
No, I was not in London the whole time. I was in London 2 or 3 times, but not, it was in October. And then in late October, I went to the Arthur Findlay College, which is in Stansted, England. It's about an hour north of London. And the Arthur Findlay College has been around since the mid-'60s, and it's known worldwide for its support and study of psychic development and mediumship.
So are you also familiar with Brian Weiss and his book on psychic regression?
I don't know Brian's book.
Yeah, he's a well-known psychiatrist too.
Oh, okay.
But getting back to London, we just love our Brit students because they work so hard and they work on their scenes outside of class. And when they come here to study, I think they inspire our students from the U.S. who have a tendency to be a little lazy, thinking it's all going to be handed to them on a silver platter, which isn't always true, you know.
Right. So your students there are all ages?
Yes.
All ages, okay.
And in our private lessons, you know, which I told you I teach here, and we also teach in Santa Monica, I've had, you know, ages 5 through 90.
Wow.
Of course, children is creative drama and improvisation. I mean, we don't go deeply into the method with children. But adults are very often interested. And the method is what Strasberg said good actors have been doing for 2,000 years, using themselves. And I know that'll ring a bell with you as an actor and a director. I think. So you were given this Princess Grace Award by Frank Sinatra, right?
I was, and actually Prince Albert and Princess Stephanie and Frank. It was the first year of the Princess Grace USA Foundation. Princess Grace had died about a year and a half before that. This was 1985. And they established this foundation in her honor. And they give scholarships and awards to artists in the U.S.
Wonderful.
And so being their first year, they had a 3-day, solid 3 days of activities and celebrations and lunches and you know, a Pierre Cardin fashion show.
And what kind of a scholarship were you given?
We got I think it was a $5,000 or a $10,000. It's been so many years now, I can't remember. It was either $5,000 or $10,000 and an award. And probably more valuable than the money, though, was the media exposure the company got.
Yes.
Because it was international. I mean, the foreign press was there. The national press was certainly there, and everyone that had ever worked with Grace Kelly in Hollywood showed up.
Oh, that was terrific. And she was such a lovely lady.
Amazing.
When she had me come over during this World Theater Conference to teach this week-long intensive workshop, I remember how lovely she was, and she was asking me all about my teaching in the U.S. and so pleased, you know, with everything that was happening. And Princess Caroline was my hostess and took me all over.
She's delightful.
And just a wonderful family.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so sorry I never got to meet Princess Grace.
Yes.
But Prince Rainier, actually the whole family was there. And so I got to meet them all, and they were amazingly gracious, and the people that event attracted, you know, those 3 days will probably go down as the most exciting 3 days in my history. But you know, getting to meet, and because I was one of the awardees, we got entree to the people, you know, outside of the events, you know, in private settings, and you know, Cary Grant and Lucille Ball and Johnny Carson and Gregory Peck, you know, people of that ilk. To be able to sit and have a conversation with them and have them be interested, and of course I was young then. I was in my, you know, early 30s, and it was very inspiring and really was a great shot in the arm for me as a young artist.
Oh, of course.
So it really kind of was a launch pad event for me. And the company went on from that point. We started in 1979, and we went through 1996 and toured nationally with original productions. And
this is your Access Theater,
Access Theater
company.
Yeah. So they were a huge help. That one event and that one award was pivotal. It was really pivotal for our company.
I would think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell us about? What you did in the past, or what you're planning for the future? You're writing more plays, are you not?
I am going to continue to write.
Yes.
You know, I love the writing process. I'm terribly fascinated and passionate about this whole concept of shared death experiences, because it's the one thing that all of us, without any exception, we all share in common.
That's right.
We're all going to die.
I remember sitting for a month holding my mom's hand.
Yeah, and we all go through it. We all experience it. Everyone experiences it in a unique and a different way, and that's totally, that's the way it should be. But what I found through the process of doing Unfinished Business is that so many people are afraid to talk about experiences that are not of the norm, or what people in our culture consider out of the norm. And that they do have, though, in the experience. I mean, I've had people come up to me who are doctors and lawyers and people of great stature in the community who have said, you can't tell anybody that we're talking about this. And of course, I would never tell their names. But death cuts across every strata of life.
Right.
Because it's, again, like I say, it's the one thing we all share. And I think in our culture in America, we sweep it under the carpet. I don't think we're prepared for it as much as we could be. And I don't think that we're encouraged to embrace it and be aware of all that goes on. For me, I look at death as an amazing rebirth. And I'm not a religious person per se. I'm a very spiritual person because of my experiences and what I've seen and experienced directly. I know that there is an amazing occurrence when you transition. And it isn't about any one particular religion. And people ask me, they say, well, do you expect me to believe that? And I say, no, I don't. But I do encourage you to embrace and to think about what happens in that transition. And I understand that a lot of people would say, oh, well, that's it. When I'm done. Put me in the ground and it's over. End of story. I haven't found that to be true. So it's an exciting part of life.
And now people think I'm crazy because I want to be frozen, because I'm so curious about my family and life.
Yeah.
I hope to come back physically, but maybe I'll come back spiritually.
I think
Who knows?
My money is on the fact that if they figure out the cryogenics, that'll work. If they don't figure out the cryogenics, you're still going to have an amazing experience.
We had people on our show from UCSB who are doing stem cell research, and that gives a lot of hope for people who are frozen. Now we have about 1 minute left. Is there anything you'd like to tell our viewing audience in this 1 minute?
Well, if you're interested in any of these projects we've talked about, the Marjorie Luke, Seniors Have Talent, Unfinished Business, you can go to www.rodlathim.com.
Great.
It's my website, and all my projects are up there.
Oh, I know. It just blew my mind. We haven't covered nearly half of your honors or projects.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
And you
good
too,
to see
Rod.
you again after it's been almost 20 years, I think, since I met you.
I think so. It's when I first moved here,
Yeah.
and I didn't know anyone really in Santa Barbara, but you and I were helping people with careers. David Holmes at San Marcos had us come in.
Yep.
And so now I'm glad we've met again.
That's great. Thank you so much.
And I have been to things at the Marjorie Luke, but I don't think, you and I have seen each other, right? So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
I wish you much luck, not only in Seniors Have Talent, but in your writing and directing and your plays. And I want to get your book.
Thank you.
Tell the name of your book again. That's at...
it's The Spirit of the Big Yellow House.
Okay.
It's the history of Summerlin's founding family.
Yeah. I think I've been there to eat when it was a restaurant.
Yeah, it's been closed for many years now. Still very active inside, but nobody's in there that you can see when you look through the window.
So again, we have much in common. Granada Books has both of our books, my book on acting and Rod's on the spirit.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think our time is up.